Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining, and thank you, Neil, for coming on and sharing your experience. Neil has lost about 30 pounds with the MRP. We've seen fantastic results in terms of blood sugar management, resolving insulin resistance, extremely fantastic results in terms of before and after with blood work and improvements in their overall health. So Neil has so graciously agreed to share his experience with us today. So welcome, thank you. And why don't you get started by telling us a little bit about what led you to connect for the Reset program? What were you feeling before you started?
It was weird. I always would nap in the afternoons, and I've always been very lean in my arms and legs. Basically, from my neck to my waistline was always this like disproportionate level of fat, and I just overall I felt really sluggish. And each year my blood numbers would kind of start to get worse and worse and worse, and then this year I was in that pre-diabetic range for the first time, and it just based on family history, I guess it kind of scared me straight. Um, the doctors they're good about telling you what you need to do and bad about being able to tell you how to get there. It's just do this, but you're left to figure it out on your own. And I stumbled across your videos on TikTok and kind of like TikTok stalked for a while. And, it was kind of just like, you kind of never know what you're going to get over the internet. I am pleasantly surprised with what I got. Like I told you, like I'll sing your praises because it turned into a plan that is worked and is sustainable for me through my lifestyle and everything. So I yeah, I just I feel great.
And how did you feel? Like, what was your primary symptom before? You were feeling low energy. Had you ever struggled with your weight prior, or was it slow and gradual increase over the years?
I have a family of very large people. Um, there's a lot of diet just unhealthy. Like, I came from a very poor family, so they ate as cheap as possible. And were taught to eat as cheap as possible. I also came from a time and age where you finished everything on your plate, no matter what it was. Um, and or symptoms were like I couldn't figure out why I wasn't resting well when I was sleeping, so I started to get tested for sleep apnea, which luckily I didn't have that. I The blood numbers being off. Um, like I would nap in the after. I would sleep 10 hours a day and then be able to nap for 2 hours in the afternoon.
Hmm.
So overall, I was just sluggish feeling. Um, and I told somebody, I said, I think I was slowly kind of killing myself. It was like a slow death, kind of how I was living before.
And
Um,
what do you feel was the biggest change? Like, was it hard for you to get into the habit of healthy eating, or how did you manage that?
I actually really like food, so it's honestly it's not really that difficult for me. It was just kind of being put on that right path. And even when I deviate from that path for a meal or two, it gives me kind of that baseline to go back to.
Hmm.
Um, so like I travel a lot in the fall, and then for work through the summer, and it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to travel and know that you're going to just be as consistent as you would be at home.
Hmm.
So it's given me the flexibility to go, okay, I can have a couple days where, I can kind of just eat what's available or eat what's at these events or dinners that I'm at and then come home and just like it gives me something to go fall back to. That's just a very simple path, a simple guided path.
And you did even travel during the losing phase, which we do remove a lot of the inflammatory foods during that time. How was managing that aspect?
I have never been one to be picky with what I order. And
Hmm.
it felt a little picky. Um, but I was in Vegas, which is easy to go crazy in Vegas, but it's also easy to be really healthy in Vegas, oddly enough.
Hmm.
Uh, and it was a lot of steakhouses, which is very, very simple. It's steak, veggies, and then typically they have, in the dessert side, they have fruit, or you can go to CVS or Walgreens or Whole Foods or whatever and pick up,
Hmm.
a piece of fruit. So I was able to really just through those meals. Um, it was more about me not being comfortable being like, I need it cooked like this with no butter, with, whatever. It was more kind of a mental battle than being able to, than being able to provide it. It was the hardest part was just knowing that I had to actually be specific with what I wanted to eat.
And it's almost like there are healthy options available if you know what to look for, right? Or if you set that time to kind of have a look at that menu ahead of time to know, okay,
Yeah.
this is what I'm going to order.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Now, were you hungry throughout the program at all? And how did you manage that?
Um, Surprisingly, no, not always. I tend to like to have a snack when my kids get home from school.
Hmm.
Um, and some days, some days I would grab like a bite of their food, right? Like they'll come home and have chips. So I would grab a chip. But the amino lean and the relax and focus really kind of became my afternoon drink that was able to kind of bridge that gap between lunch and dinner.
Hmm.
Um, so I wasn't doing like since I work from home, there wasn't uh, before I would just kind of walk in, nibble in the pantry, and come back outside. Um, but having that sort of like that the amino lean kind of just once I worked it into the schedule, no problem. It was easy peasy.
And after getting through the losing phase where you're given a really structured plan, okay, here's what you're going to eat. Then in the maintenance plan, we start to incorporate more of those foods that you would have on a traditional, nutrition plan to make it sustainable. How was adding the foods back in? What did you notice?
I noticed that it's not as fast adding foods back in as
Mhm.
you want it to be.
Okay.
Um,
Yes.
I was so ready to have like pasta and pizza and but I have found that if I eat the wrong foods, like I can tell my
Hmm.
body lets me know like that's not a good idea. Um, so my body has learned a lot through this process. Um, so it was nice being like I learned like you can boil your rice in bone broth and it makes a white rice more of a protein heavy rice.
Hmm.
So I can have rice and now I boil it in bone broth and it's like it's kind of like a treat in a lot of ways. It's like a rice and gravy, the
Yeah.
way that it tastes. And like the program has made me very mindful of kind of what I'm putting into my body and my body's letting me know how it's making me feel through that process.
And some of the foods that you've picked up through the reintroduction phase as potential food sensitivities for you, were those foods you were consuming all of the time before?
Sugars, yes.
Okay.
Um, I don't know that I've had a lot of sensitivity to the carbohydrates as much.
Hmm.
Um, hon- Honestly, not really. I mean, the sugar is kind of what will really let me know that it doesn't love me
Yeah.
if I eat too much sugar. Like my dad will travel down a few times a year, and he brings this ice cream from back where I grew up. And so he brings me a shake. It's probably, I don't know, 16 ounces or so. And he's been gone now for the better part. He was here 3 weeks ago, and I've eaten about this much of that shake. I'll just do a couple bites,
Yeah.
and then I'm mindful, and I put it back. Okay, I had a taste, and I put it back.
Hmm.
But if I sat and ate that whole thing, oh, my body would be screaming. I would wake up with a headache. I would you can feel the sluggishness of like the sugar crash on the back end, and so yeah, it's definitely made me very hyper aware to what I'm putting into my body and how I'm fueling it.
Now, do you find that when you started to have, because the reality is things happen, life happens, sugar is going to come into your nutrition plan. When you started to add in a little bit more, did that set you up for cravings? Did your weight increase? Or how are you finding your metabolic flexibility now?
No, honestly, like I said earlier, having the ability to come back to that baseline, which is the meat, veggies, and fruit,
Hmm.
and being able to add in like a whey protein gives me that little boost of protein. Um, kind of having that baseline to come back to has allowed me the flexibility to, in certain circumstances when I'm traveling or whatever, to not necessarily be like, okay, what can I order on this menu?
Yeah.
Like I know what to order for the most part now when I get to a restaurant, but I don't have to be as overly cautious as to what type of oil or what type of butter or, you know, how are they cooking these vegetables? Are those good questions to ask? Yeah, sure, of course. But you're not always like in the airport, for instance, like how do you eat healthy in an airport?
Hmm.
Well, I found that Panda Express does steamed veggies and they do a grilled teriyaki chicken and, beef and broccoli.
Yeah.
So it's a nice kind of trade off where it gives me the flexibility to know that in those situations I can do that. And then on the back end, when I get back home, that I can go back to that baseline to kind of reset. Not that
Hmm.
it's like the same type of reset, but to reset after those days where I'm just kind of on a jagged course.
Now, do you find with the maintenance plan, adding foods back in, is this sustainable long term for you?
Oh, for sure. And that's the problem that I had with diets in the past is I've tried all these different plans in the past and um, having the metabolic reset program, it felt sustainable from the go.
Hmm.
Maybe not the loading phase, which I don't know how much of who knows about that, but the loading phase was not sustainable. But having that reset, it not only resets kind of what your body's doing internally, but also your mind and the way that you think and view what's going into your body and fueling it. So yes, very sustainable having that baseline to come back to.
And when you saw positive momentum with your weight, was there other aspects of your life that also gained some positive momentum that had nothing to do with the scale?
Yeah, I noticed that I had crazy amounts of energy. Um, I'm not a huge gym rat, but I do like now I actually really enjoy going on evening walks.
Hmm.
So I'll pop in an audiobook and just go on about a 2 or 3 mile walk. And before by the end of the day, I was so sluggish that it was like, I just wanted
I'm
to
not
sit on
doing
the
that.
sofa.
Yeah.
And now like I traveled home from the West Coast yesterday and it was like 9 o'clock and I had to force myself to sit down on the sofa uh, because I just had so much energy and I was just kind of go, 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 go.
Hmm.
So it's given me just this crazy amount of energy that I didn't have before, like noticeably different.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm getting and having more energy, I get more stuff accomplished. I get more dishes done. I get more laundry done. I get more uh, more time for me. When I travel, it gives me the ability to see more things and do more things because I don't feel that sort of midday lull
Hmm.
anymore.
It's so interesting how much we get accustomed to living a certain way and feeling a certain way. We almost adapt to that as our normal.
Yeah. I think maybe the biggest drawback is the fact that now I have to buy all new clothes now because
Yeah.
like they're like rippling on, like I have to fold them in half to put my shorts on and I'm down like 3.5 sizes. So
Wow.
it's pretty amazing. People see one of my good friends who hadn't seen me since earlier this year. He saw me for the first time and he goes, "Oh my God, look at you."
Yeah.
It was like a whole new person.
And how much exercise did you do on the program?
Not much at all.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me, you said if it stresses you out to go to the gym, don't do it because it's going to raise your cortisol levels.
Yeah.
So I kind of do it as I have some weights sitting in the living room. So I'll do a little bit of weightlifting here and there.
Hmm.
Just real simple stuff, a little simple, just movement stuff. And, but yeah, I don't, I'm not a gym rat. So yeah, I haven't done barely any exercise.
And I always find challenging individuals' beliefs about weight loss and the fact where they believe that they have to do all this exercise and they have to wake up early to go to the gym. And if they don't exercise, there goes their lean muscle mass and what's going to happen to their testosterone. Where we can set up so much good baseline and a good solid foundation with nutrition alone, get the hormones back into an optimal level first. And then if you want to, yes, there's benefits in terms of resistance training for your mental health and your bone health, but not using resistance training for weight loss is a really hard thing for individuals to wrap their heads around.
Well, and I think the doctor too is like diet and exercise, diet and exercise.
Hmm.
It should be diet, 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 exercise.
Hmm.
Um, so they we've all heard it that diet is the most important part, but like I actually am proof that diet is the most important part.
Hmm.
And I'm not a small guy in general. I still have plenty of muscle mass. Now I just don't have the layers of fat hiding it.
Exactly. Yeah. And when we look at when your blood markers are better, now if you wanted to put in resistance training, you're going to get the positive benefit from it, right? Before, if you had high cortisol and not optimal hormones, you're not doing your body a favor by adding on crazy amounts of exercise, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, in the maintenance plan, when you added those foods back in, has your weight significantly increased?
No, not at all. It's actually held very steady. It's usually anywhere from a 2 to 3 pound range, depending on the day.
Hmm.
Um, it was up a little bit after travel over this weekend, but I fully suspect that it'll be back to like where it has been um, by tomorrow. Um,
Amazing.
yeah,
And that's always a concern I hear from individuals, like what's going to happen when I put the foods back in? Is the weight just going to come back on? And the overall goal is really to restore that flexibility so you can eat more.
yeah, it restores the flexibility from the standpoint of like my kid wanted to go to the chocolate place and buy chocolate, so I ate a few pieces of chocolate. Like I had some ice cream with him. Like ice cream is kind of a weakness of mine. So now it gives me the flexibility to have it, maybe not every day,
Hmm.
but in situations where it's like, I want to hang out with my kids. I want to be part of the crew.
Yeah,
Um, you know, it gives me that flexibility to have the things that I enjoyed before, but the mindset of knowing that I have the baseline to come back to.
amazing. And tell me a little bit about the volume of supplements that you're on in the maintenance plan, because there are some supplements in the losing phase, which can feel overwhelming to have to take some of these things.
It was a
In the
lot. It was a lot. When I first started, I was like, wow, what is all this stuff? um, But yeah, I mean, I think I take the supplements. I mean, it's not a lot. I break it up into two. Basically, I take some some magnesium and something else at lunch, and then I take fiber, tummy tone, and fish oil at night.
So you've kind of been able to find which products work for you to help you and sustain your overall long-term health.
Yep, for sure, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
And
that's
I'm
amazing.
actually I stopped using one of the prescription medications I was on,
Hmm.
which is great. Like I don't want to fuel big pharma any more than I need to.
Yeah. And if it's safe, right, and you no longer need it, then that's a really great goal for a lot of individuals to set, right? If
Yeah,
you have things like pre-diabetes or higher levels of cholesterol or high blood pressure, a lot of those baseline chronic health conditions can resolve. And I'm always amazed with it, but there's nothing fancy, right? It's healthy whole food nutrition. It's fueling your body properly. It's sleeping. It's managing your mindset. That can make a profound difference in your overall health.
yeah, and I feel great. Like I, it's amazing how good I feel on the backside of the program.
And what would be the one piece of advice to wrap up that you would tell to somebody who's struggling with their health at the moment? Maybe they feel like they're in the exact same spot you were.
Um, it's really do the metabolic reset. I mean, it's 10 weeks of your life, but I can't even begin to count how many years it potentially added to the end of it.
Hmm.
Um, getting as simple as the program is very simple. And the simplicity of it is kind of mind blowing when you see the results, like how something so simple works so well.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I say, I told you that I would always. I'm telling everybody how great it is, and this is the opportunity to do that. So by all means, like, just talk to Brienne, and she can help you out.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I absolutely appreciate it. I love how you said it's simple because that's what my ultimate goal is. Let's just make health simple, restore the baseline, and then you definitely have more flexibility after, which is exactly what I think it's all about. So
Yep.
thank you. You've had tremendous success, and I really appreciate your time today.
Yep. Thank you.